Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the closing bell here at MarketStream.live. My name is Joseph Cusick from the Cusick Group, securities offered by MoneyBlock. Here to wrap up this week. Well, you know what? This first day of the trading week was a little bit mixed. We had the Dow Jones actually in the green. We had it up 16 points at 19,772. We had the NASDAQ composite, in contrast, down by about 46 to 53.98. We also had the S&P 500 down by 5, at 22.54. And I have to say that the action was about in line, as far as volume's concerned, both on the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ, in line on average volume. So you know what? You're really looking at the market at this juncture mixed at best. And that makes some sense. We're getting into the tail end of the year. You're going to see some volume start to taper off as we get closer to the Christmas holiday, but really what hasn't taken any time off is going to be crude. The crude oil contract surged overnight, got as high as $54. The catalyst, it looks like the non-OPEC nations like Russia, Venezuela, a few of the other non-OPEC nations are saying that they will abide by the cuts in production. We'll wait and see. Whether or not that 600,000 barrels a day is actually going to hold up as far as a cut with these other nations, I don't know. But the crude contract finished today here, the West Texas January contract finished up 2% at $52.83. I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. For those of you that are energy traders or you're looking to add that exposure, do it in very small chunks. This is going to be very volatile going forward, especially as we get closer to what actually is going to become the Trump policies as far as trade, as far as energy is concerned. We're going to watch that. Another sector that also was on my radar screen was the industrial sector. As a whole, down about 0.4%. We saw a lot of pressure come in on the defense, aerospace and defense area. Donald Trump went on a tirade over the weekend. I'll call it a tirade on Twitter. Where he basically said that Lockheed Martin was charging too much for the F-35 program. Well, Lockheed Martin came out and defended itself. But with that being said, the stock was down 3%. Taking a look at what potentially could be on the next Trump tirade as far as Twitter's concerned, watch Boeing. Boeing was actually up today, up around 67 cents at 157.16. I'm going to watch this one closely. They just inked a potential deal with Iran for some commercial airliners over the next decade. It's some serious dollars, but again, what is Mr. Trump going to feel about that? Especially since he wants to tear up the agreement and basically any kind of agreement that we had with the Iranians. Again, we'll watch that very closely. Also, what was similar to the action that we saw in the industrials, minus the Mr. Trump effect, is consumer discretionaries. They were actually down 0.8%. Now, they've been in negative territory. Some noted apparel retailers have weighed on this space, right? You've heard the Lululemons and so on and so forth. They've had some positive, some negative. You've seen some big box under some pressure in this holiday season. The sector as a whole has been pulling back after last week's nice run to the upside. Watch that one very closely. Let's see if the consumer starts to cool off going into the end of this holiday season. Another area is the tech area, and there's two segments that I want to watch very closely. We've been talking about the semiconductors. SMH down about 0.8%, the whole sector, and Micron. Micron has pulled back 2.4% after basically the company came out and warned that the memory market is going to be flooded by China within a few years. So bottom line is they're saying that they're going to have a ton of quantity of product out there that is going to maybe put something on that supply and demand equation. We're watching Micron very closely, especially since that's always a merger or acquisition target as well. Biotech continues to be volatile. It was down today. IBB was down about $2.14. Alexion Pharmaceuticals, ALXM, was down about 12%. You're starting to see that some executives have bailed out of that company. That dropped the stock by about $17 and has added a lot on the line of volatility. Want to watch the biotech names, especially as we get into the year end. There might be some painting of the tape, so to speak, for money managers, especially as they get down to knocking out their end of the year performance numbers. Unlike biotech, though, the healthcare sector did hold up about 0.5%, held its modest gains into the session. Some other counter-cyclical areas that you're going to want to keep an eye on, especially in your portfolio, is going to be telecom names as well as utilities. These are going to be two areas that after the Fed meets on Wednesday and announces whether or not they're going to raise rates, that's at about 97% that they are going to raise rates. We're going to watch these names very closely because we're going to get into some volatile times going into the January 1st, into the inauguration of Trump and into 2017. Treasuries did finish the day basically making up for their overnight losses in the Treasury markets. Their price action was to the downside. The 10-year yield was only up 1 basis point, so they've recovered on price. We're going to watch that very closely as we get, again, into the end of the year. We're going to watch to see if volume starts to dry up. All right, well, that's your closing bell right now. Tomorrow morning, we will be back online with overnight action. I'm going to talk about what 25% of your portfolio is doing. Yes, 25%. That's where you watch all the Asian stocks, the European stocks. These are, you could have exposure in your portfolio, whether or not you know it, and you should be able to understand what's going on in these areas of the world because that's going to impact your investments. All right, folks, we'll see you at 8:30 Eastern Time tomorrow morning. Till then, have a wonderful evening.